Welcome, age of vintage society. With her impeccable makeup, trademark bangs and stunning legs, Claudette Colbert became America's highest paid movie star in 1938 by sheer force of will. Colbert had a formidable technique that allowed her to play a wide range of roles. Why was it a nightmare to work with Claudette Colbert? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Claudette Colbert, the elusive starlet. No matter how famous Claudette Colbert got, and in the 1930s she was the highest paid screen siren out there, it couldn't fix her deep insecurities behind the scenes. And then there were the scandalous rumours, on-set blow-ups and secret marriages. Colbert left an indelible mark on Hollywood before all but disappearing from screens. Claudette Colbert's whole career was a surprise. A stage actress, Colbert never wanted to be a movie star. Even so, Hollywood wanted her. Tinseltown was just switching from silent films to talkies, and there was a huge demand for actresses who had experience with speaking roles. They eventually enticed her to go west. Actress Claudette Colbert was born on the 13th of September 1903. She was the daughter of Georges-Claude Chauchin and Jean-Marie, a French couple who lived in Saint-Mandé, France. Her parents nicknamed her Lily, after the legendary English actress Lily Langtry. Colbert's mother was British by birth and was bilingual. She was one of two children and had an older brother, Charles. Colbert's father, George, immigrated to the US in 1906, and 5 years later he sent for his family. Around that time her parents officially changed her name to Lily Emily Chauchin. They lived in a fifth-floor apartment in Manhattan. Lily and her brother started school at the PS 59, close to where they lived. In 1916, Colbert was hit by a motor car on a busy street and took months to recover. She did her high schooling at the Washington Irving High School, which had an arts program with a good reputation. Colbert was interested in art, especially painting, but one of her teachers encouraged her to audition for a play. She got the part, and her first theatrical performance was in The Widow's Veil at the Provincetown Playhouse in 1919. After high school, Colbert decided she wanted to become a fashion designer and enrolled in the Arts Student League of New York. To make money to put herself through art school, Claudette Colbert used to work in a store, and she also gave French lessons. One of her students introduced her to Anne Morrison. Morrison was carving out a career as a playwright in New York City and was becoming quite well known when they met. She found Colbert exciting and asked her to audition for her play, The Wild Westcots. It was a tiny part, but it gave Colbert a taste of acting on Broadway. She then adopted the stage name of Claudette Colbert, Colbert being her paternal grandmother's maiden name. Stage producer A.H. Woods saw the performance and offered Colbert a contract with his company. She took up his offer and subsequently spent from the mid to late 1920s appearing on Broadway and travelling around the nation in touring troupes. Travelling to London in 1927, Claudette Colbert appeared in The Baker and won many accolades for her performance. After her contract had run out with A.H. Woods, Colbert turned to screen acting. Her first role was in the film For the Love of Mike. This movie was not a success, but the New York Times reviewer was kind to Colbert. Colbert's first experience on a film set was so awful she swore never to do it again. Her first movie was 1927's For the Love of Mike, under soon-to-be legendary director Frank Capra, but this didn't help her much at the time. In the 1920s, Capra was still young and green, and Colbert didn't trust him. She only stayed in Hollywood because she was locked in a contract. She performed in almost a dozen plays between 1924 and 1926 in New York, Chicago and Washington, D.C. although Colbert never took any formal acting lessons, she educated herself in acting techniques by observing well-established actors as she stood in the wings during performances. The film The Lady Lies was shot in the day, while she was also doing stage acting at night. After the stock market crash of 1929, stage productions were affected. Colbert then signed with Paramount Studios. Her contract stipulated that films were to be made at Queens, not Los Angeles. Her first role was in Hole in the Wall, followed by The Young Man of Manhattan. During the early 1930s she starred in Manslaughter, The Mysterious Mr. Parks, and The Smiling Lieutenant. Then Paramount closed their studio in New York and Colbert had to move to Los Angeles. Her career had slumped again when Columbia fortuitously offered her the role of a runaway heiress in It Happened One Night, after Constance Bennett, Miriam Hopkins and Myrna Loy had turned it down. Claudette Colbert only accepted because Capra promised he would double her salary and she would be done in 4 weeks. She disliked the film so much she didn't even attend the Oscars. When she won for Best Actress, she was found about to leave on a trip and was rushed to the ceremony, where she made her acceptance speech in a travelling suit. Colbert accepted the role also because it gave her the chance to work with Clark Gable, who had been forced by his studio MGM to do the film. So, in 1934, Colbert worked with Frank Capra again in the now classic It Happened One Night, playing spoiled heiress Ellie Andrews. But most people don't know the film's dark history. After their previous collaboration, Capra and Colbert had no love lost for each other, and Colbert wasn't even supposed to get the part. She was Capra's last choice, after 7 other starlets turned him down. Claudette Colbert only wears 4 different outfits throughout the course of the film: a flimsy nightgown at the beginning, her travelling suit, Clark Gable's pyjamas, and her wedding dress. Surprising almost no one who knew Colbert and Capra, filming was an absolute nightmare. Capra recalled that his lead actress had many little tantrums about almost anything, mostly, he said, motivated by her antipathy toward me, but her biggest diva moment happened in the film's most famous scene. Colbert was always exacting and deeply insecure. This is not a good combination, and she went to extreme lengths to control her image. It's become a cliché for people to claim they have a good side, but Colbert actually refused to show the right side of her face to the camera entirely. This eccentricity soon blew up into epic proportions. Her distinctive high cheekboned beauty and the throaty individuality of her voice were complemented by superb comic timing and fine technical skill honed by an extensive apprenticeship. While Colbert didn't like Frank Capra much, she definitely had different feelings about her handsome co-star Clark Gable. Years later she made a scandalous revelation. Even though they were both married at the time, Colbert and Gable carried on a steamy affair while on set. Now that chemistry is palpable. Then there's the issue of Clark Gable, who starred with Colbert. There were 2 unfunny-sounding practical jokes Gable played on Colbert on the set. He dropped a hammer down his pants before a love scene, and then later stuck a tennis racket under a blanket to simulate an erection, with director Frank Capra's blessing. Colbert's response? "Oh, you guys," she cried. Now, I wasn't there at the time, obviously, and neither was Dick, but he makes it sound like she enjoyed these antics. I get the feeling, though, that she was probably a little irritated, even disgusted, yet she wanted to appear like one of the boys. How weird, then, that Colbert later claimed to have slept with Gable, ostensibly to defend his manhood. Colbert had a formidable technique that allowed her to play a wide range of roles. Colbert had been initially reluctant to appear in the slight comedy, but her sparkling performance as a runaway heiress became her most famous and won her an Academy Award. All of her 3 films were nominated for Best Motion Picture that year, and It Happened One Night took the award. One of the highest paid film stars of the 1930s and 40s, Colbert continued to demonstrate her expert comic timing in such sophisticated comedies. The characters Colbert created were relaxed and charming, even when embroiled in outlandish situations. She imbued them, seemingly effortlessly, with intelligence, style, warmth and humour. Colbert secretly married Norman Foster, her co-star in The Baker, on 13th of March 1928 in London. The couple preferred to live apart for much of the first year of their marriage, and even when the press disclosed the marriage, they generally lived at separate addresses in California. A Mexican divorce dissolved the marriage in August 1935. On 24th of December 1935 in Yuma, Arizona, Colbert married Dr. Joel J. Pressman, who had been her overseeing physician during some of her lifelong sinus problems. Pressman died of liver cancer on the 26th of February 1968. Colbert had no children. Colbert was at her failing husband's bedside when she received a bizarre letter. It was a message from Werner Hull via her estate manager, and it contained an utterly chilling accusation. According to Hull, the dying Pressman was somehow going to take Colbert down with him, slaying her so that they could be together forever. Oh, what? And Colbert's reaction to this unhinged news? Not good. As soon as Colbert received the strange letter, she marched right over to Hull's property. With no muss or fuss, Colbert then yelled at Hull's maid to "Tell your mistress I will never see her or speak to her again for the rest of my life." Then, just to make sure she was 100% clear, Colbert sent back every gift Hull had ever given her. After a long Hollywood career, she returned with great success to the theatre and was 82 years old when she last performed in London, starring with Rex Harrison in Frederick Lonsdale's Aren't We All? Unlike many of her contemporaries, Colbert was neither desperate to hold on to stardom nor a recluse in the last decades of her life. She outlasted her family, her husband, and many other old Hollywood stars. But the end does come for us all, even the magnificent Claudette Colbert. In 1996, Colbert passed at the age of 92. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about Claudette Colbert's life and legacy? Do you believe if she had an affair with Clark Gable?